and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I do not see any visitors or delegations who would like to address the board this evening, so we will move into informational items and the superintendent's report.
Okay, a short one for the beginning of the year. Just wanted to stress a couple of pieces to the puzzle. Today was our all-staff kickoff. We centered it around 4 themes. The concept of patience, because of where we are at with our construction projects. I've been really proud of the work of the Buildings and Grounds Department, adapting and being flexible, and also all of our staff coming today and knowing that it's not exactly how they left it, but being really open and flexible. So we really appreciate that. A second theme around making sure that we're really focused on what our priorities are, which I know our board has talked a lot about what those priorities are. But while we're focused on those priorities, not losing sight of the special things that we have when we work in a school, and then finally just welcoming our staff. So as a lot of you who were there know that we had multiple presenters. Stacy provided the school board welcome. We also had representatives from United Way and the Forward Foundation, and then Sarah Plum also gave a presentation as a representative of our teacher group. So a really good start, and then on to all of the separate buildings and lots of action today. And each building had its own agenda for the rest of the day, and then there'll be district trainings between tomorrow, Tuesday through Thursday, and then we'll get started with the school year next Tuesday. Last week, I wanted to give a shout out to lots of different people who supported different trainings as we lead into the school year. Each year we do a training for our bus drivers, and Nate and as well as Todd and his team do a big push to get good training. And what I've noticed over the years of that training is we've really zeroed in on what the feedback from our drivers is saying they want to know more about. And so it's been really good, a lot more dialogue than in our first few years of doing that. Substitute teacher training, we had a lot of administrators participate in that. This year we had the Curriculum Academy opportunities for teachers. If you recall, the board is moving towards adding a day. This year it was an opt-in day, and we had many people participate in grades K through 12. We will get feedback from those who did participate to understand what elements of that Curriculum Academy went really well and what elements can we improve upon and tweak as we move into that just being part of our regular calendar. And then we had also new teacher orientation, which is a traditional event. It was really good. It was kind of cool. We had a little bit smaller group this year, which was nice. 24 teachers. Is that right, Nate? 24. And we feel really excited about that. And then also we added a paraprofessional orientation this year as well. So they had a day of onboarding and training, and we felt like that was really successful. So moving into the year, we're really excited about where we're sitting.
Dave?
Yes, sir.
Back on, of all those things new this year were substitute teacher training?
Nope. Bus driver training, substitute training, and the new teacher have gone on for at least a few years.
Okay.
New would be our Curriculum Academy opportunities. That was our opt-in, and Mary Beth and Amy took the lead on that. And then also new was our paraprofessional orientation. Okay. Nate took the lead on coordinating that.
Good. Yeah, got to meet those new pairs too. That's a nice group.
Yep. Good. Just wanted to highlight a couple of resources that we're going to share wildly with our stakeholders, mainly families and students, as we kind of transition into a new school year. These are common questions that come up, and we want to make sure we have kind of a one-stop, one-pager that can be shared out through newsletters, shared out on social media, shared out in hard copy. And Amy and Mary Beth did a nice job putting this together. It shows, if I'm a parent, how I would access my child's grade book, and there's a QR code that can get me right to there, and then the steps to follow through, how I would report an absence, the easiest way to do that with a QR code and some additional information about absences. Also classroom information. We're making a switch this year from Schoology to Google Classroom. So for parents who were engaged and used to going into Schoology, this is the information on how they would get to Google Classroom, which is what will replace Schoology this year. Nice step-by-step way to do it. Also, Library Media, last spring and summer, we spent some time upgrading our ability to have parents have a clear understanding and have resources of the Library Media Center materials and access to those. So that is a one-stop way to do that. By that QR code, clicking into that, there's steps to follow to have parents who are interested in accessing them. And then the one that I always go to is calendars, right? So what's going on tonight? So this is a quick, easy way to where you would access on our website. So we're trying to share that widely so people can see them in lots of different spaces and get accustomed to, or save it on their phone or whatever is needed. So yeah, we're really excited about that. Just wanted to share that with the board.
This is a PDF or a brochure?
It's all of those things. It's a PDF. We're going to do hard copy. We'll share it in newsletters, and we can share it on the website and through social medias. But the one thing that we want is we want it to kind of be a consistent thing, so it becomes a familiar, it's like, oh yeah, I throw that on the fridge. And so people are used to it.
It's good to have that as a poster on parent-teacher conference nights.
Yeah, yeah, good idea.
Good.
And then one other thing, we're gonna have our second reading of the attendance policy, and Jenny Ames, as well as Zach Campbell, worked really hard to create a website that is a one-stop for our updated attendance policy. So some of it isn't really changed and some of it has changed, and we're really working to be consistent. So we wanted a common landing space for that attendance policy. Same concept, Alan, that we could have a PDF that could go into a newsletter, a PDF that could be shared out on social media. Again, helping people become familiar with what our expectations are for attendance. So we just shout out to those that helped us get that updated. So if the board approves it tonight, then we'll move into sharing that with secretaries and building principals and getting that out. So wanted to share those updates with you. Any questions on any of those?
That's great, good stuff, Dave.
Okay.
Nothing else, Tina?
That is all.
All right, nice. Nicely done. Thank you. All right, we will move on to action items. Before the board this evening, we have meeting minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on July 21st. We have minutes from the school board retreat on July 28th. We have bills that have been submitted for payment, as well as employment recommendations. So at this point, is there a motion to approve minutes, bills, and employment as presented?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Allison. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, we'll move on to a report for the Educational Program Committee, and Ellen.
Okay, the Education Program Committee met on Monday, August 11th, and we dealt with several things. One was we had an overview of the Renaissance Charter Academy's vape substance policy, as well as their GED-02 program, which is General Educational Equivalency Diploma. What's the O, Mark? Option, yes, 2, which is a separate option. Both of those are very interesting, and both of those are related to the RCA. Peggy Webb, the administrator there, gave a very good presentation and update on what's going on, what the policies are, and we had a very good discussion about that. And then we also had a presentation from the River Falls High School staff about virtual programming and what the school district is doing now for virtual programming, and the options there. Very informative, good discussion. And then we also discussed the handbook for the virtual programming that we have, and talked about that at length. And that's the only thing I think tonight that takes action. So Mary Beth, you had some.
So one of the things we had talked about in that meeting was just a few changes that you wanted to see, as the board wanted to see in the handbook. And one was making sure we were clear on the failed or incomplete classes would require payment from the parents. So that is bolded and added in all the sections that we had noted, that there would be internet assistance if needed, we would offer that. And then distinguishing between in-person days versus electronic device days was another piece that was added. So all of those updates have been made as requested.
Thank you.
I will move the adoption of this virtual programming, approval of the virtual programming student handbook.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Monica. Questions or comments? Thank you for getting those adjustments. I think that'll make it a stronger document. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. Finance and Facilities Committee report.
All right.
Mike?
As part of our triple header on August 11th, we had our Finance and Facilities meeting. As we've done over the last several months, we started off with a facility project update. We had some nice handouts with nice pictures. We're getting close to the end here, or at least for the beginning of school is kind of the finish line, so we're gonna make it. It's gonna be tight, but it always is, these kind of projects. It's amazing what they can get done over a 3-month period. So we're on track to get them completed, and the kids and the staff will be back in the schools. So we had, won't go through each one of them, but a lot of progress being made there. Next on the agenda was our property insurance liability update. We go through that every year. We have to renew. We had a report from WERMAC, and that stands for,
Wisconsin Educators Risk Management Cooperative.
which is something that we've joined somewhat recently, right? And they do a job, they give us kind of an overview on how our rates and how we're doing. So we saw kind of a good and a bad. We had an increase of our property up 21% this year, which is not great, but we saw a pretty big decrease in our workman's comp. So the net was about a 3% increase in our insurance totals, which was about $402,500 or $402,502 this year. So, and that was, let's see, that was it. One of the things we did talk about too for the public, we will have an open house sometime the end of October, early November. We're gonna have an open house of our new facility at the high school with our new addition there, and then our bus garage addition too. So people can keep an eye out for that, and I'm sure it'll be publicized, so.
Good. Thank you, Mike. All right, the third meeting on that day was the Personnel Committee, and during that time, we received a staffing update for this coming academic year. Things are really strong and ready to go, so that's great. The Director of Human Resources and Leadership Development shared his goals, so Nate shared his goals with us for the 2025-26 school year, so that was helpful. And then we also approved an update to the general education paraprofessional job description. There weren't wholesale changes in what they're doing, but we needed to match up this description to the format that we use for our other job descriptions. Do you want to add anything?
Just one thing in relation to the goals that I have some new information. So my goal is focused on job satisfaction, and one of the things we've been tracking and talking about has been salary and comparing that to regional comps as opposed to using comps that were demographically similar. So we've got 8 schools that we're comparing to. Our goal was to get into the second slot by 2027, and now I've collected all of that information from the neighboring districts, and we did move up into the third slot of the 8, so that was really good news. However, we have to keep in mind there are so many variables at play here that looking at salary, even if we were looking at the same components, for instance, we're using the salary that's listed on the salary schedule, there's so much else happening that it's not comparing apples to apples. And I gave the example of St. Croix Central, whose salary has been higher than ours in the last few years, but they passed a really big referendum several years back for the purpose of increasing their salaries. And most recently, some of the things you don't hear about is they've had some freezing of various salaries for staff right now. They've had reductions going on at the building level for supply budgets. So unless you look at all of those pieces, and there just are too many to look at, it's not an apple-to-apple comparison. So I just wanted to mention, we're going to keep an eye on that, but that is not the end-all, be-all of how a district is functioning. St. Croix Central is paying their staff a little bit more, but now their teachers aren't getting supplies in their classroom. They're cutting behavior interventionists and special ed paras, so they're decreasing their staffing to allow for more money for those that remain. So it's a slippery slope to go down, something to just pay attention to as we continue to monitor.
And am I remembering correctly that that is a non-recurring? I mean,
That's right, they're gonna have to
referendum, and so
come.
at some point, they are going to face a significant issue.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a motion to approve the general education paraprofessional job description as presented. Is there someone willing to make that motion? Okay,
Second.
Ellen, thank you. Ellen, and then Allison. Any questions or comments about that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. As far as the 25-26 budget for the annual meeting and the budget hearing, I'm going to turn to Lynette to walk us through that, so thank you.
I will. So what you have in front of you and what we've provided as an attachment to the meeting agenda, actually had to revise a little bit today. There were two numbers on the revised version. I have highlighted the two that were revised, and they are just adding the same dollar amount, subtracting it from the other. So you can see that on there. Otherwise, the format that we use is provided from DPI. So this is their recommended format for providing and getting approval for a budget. And so what we want to put in front of you for approval today is so that we can print this as part of our annual meeting and budget hearing, the meeting that's coming up in September, and then we provide that in the newspaper, so we print that twice as well. This really aligns with what we've been talking about as far as our budget since April. We've seen kind of real high-level budgets. I'm sorry, I think March we started talking about budget and what we were going to see. We've got salaries updated in here. As much as we know, we're still gathering compensation info from staff as they make their selections for health insurance. And so we're going to continue to update that. So this is really our somewhat preliminary budget for approval. And then in October, we come back and do sort of the what we call an original budget. And then if you recall, throughout the year, we keep our eyes on the budget, and like we did last year, we often do a revised budget as numbers sort of get finalized near the end of the year. So anyway, this is the one we're starting with, and what will be presented at the annual meeting for the public hearing. I'll go through just highlight a few things. If you look on the front page, we've got our general fund, Fund 10. And if you look under the taxes, local sources is 210 for taxes, and you'll see that an increase of that is 2.2 million. So that's going to line up with what we have at on the last page of this document, which shows our levy. And if you remember that what's pulling into there is we're adding another $1 million from our operating referendum that was approved by the taxpayers, and then with the state budget, there was a $325 per pupil increase. And so we're able to add that as well to our revenue. And the reason that it's being added under taxes is because, as we'll see a little bit further down on this budget, there was no new money put in for state aid. And so that revenue limit increase is all added to the tax levy.
taxpayers. So we're continuing to shift the opportunity to support local public education to the local taxpayers. Where would we see in here, or would it be the following year that we would see the increase in special ed funding?
We will see that in here.
In
Yeah.
here.
Yep, and I'll get
You get to that?
Yep, as we
Okay.
get down to Fund 27. Good, that's one of my highlights as well.
Okay.
So you'll see that increase there at local sources, that the taxes of the 2.2 million. And then if you go down almost to the bottom, you'll see the state source 620, and that's the state aid. And although our July 1 estimate shows just a slight increase, that number doesn't actually get certified until October 15th. And that is the reason why we don't adopt an actual original budget until the end of October, because we're still waiting for these final numbers to come in. Again, no new state money put into that pot, so the shift is going to be kind of where we land with property values and expenditures in comparison to other districts in the state. Because the pot of money is the same, it's just how districts are are shifting within that pot of money, if that makes sense. So,
Right.
okay. So that's really the highlight on that first page. On the second page, we have our federal sources. And if you recall, we had some discussion a couple months ago about some of the federal grants being frozen, our title grants. Those have now been unfrozen for 25, 26. So we're adding those back in as revenue, and we're glad to do that. However, discussion with my professional organization is when we look ahead to 25, 26, bets are off. We don't know that that's going to
26,
carry forward
27.
next year. So
26,
I'm sorry.
26, 27.
26, 27, thank you.
I thought it already was canceled.
25, 26,
It's released.
Wisconsin DPI has been given the allocations, provided with that, and provided those allocations for those title grants. And so now districts are starting to see their individual district allocations for those
But
title grants.
those grants have all been
For
eliminated.
25, 26.
For 26, 27.
26, 27, to be,
Unknown.
to be seen.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I
We're
thought they were not
being told
included
that
in the
that's still
federal
up in
budget.
the air, so we'll see. So that's under federal sources. So that's really the revenue. That's all I have to highlight under revenue. And then if you kind of sneak down further on that second page, we get into expenditures. And that is where I'm going to highlight, let's see if I can open this document here. You'll be able to see one of the numbers that was updated is the business administration. Let me just pull it up here. So the 250,000. So that was reduced slightly and then added to the interfund transfer on the next page. So that's our transfer to Fund 27. The line item right below that is the instructional service payments, and that's our open enrollment out. And as we continue to see kind of those numbers grow and the transfer amount for open enrollment itself, we're just going to continue to see that dollar amount, the transfer between districts increase. So that's really Fund 10. We're presenting a balanced budget there. And then we can move on to special projects funds. This is our Fund 21, or our student activity accounts. Nothing a whole lot to say about that. Lots of fundraising happens, as you can see those dollar amounts in previous revenues and expenditures. We have a lot of support for a lot of those activities through fundraising and donations, so that's great. The next fund is our special education fund, so this is where we can talk about the increase in special ed funding. So I'm going to skip down and then come back up. So if you skip to the next page under state sources, you're going to see the state aid, categorical aid. So this last year, 24-25, we saw about $1.8 million in special ed reimbursement, and that's at that kind of 30%. Target was 33%. It actually came closer to 30%. So with the increase, we are budgeting a $2.6 million aid reimbursement or special ed reimbursement. So we're seeing over $700,000 increase, which is great. If you recall, back in February, we also approved new staff in special ed, and that was to provide the required services and necessary services for our students. So yes, we're seeing an increase in that, but then if we go back, we're gonna go back a page, and you're gonna see the transfer in, and that's of course gonna match the expense in Fund 10 that gets then transferred to Fund 27 as a revenue, and that's that 4.6 million. So it is a little bit less than what we transferred last year, but not significantly.
It's still a lot.
Still a lot. Yep. If we go back, if we continue on with Fund 27 and expenses, again, we have a balanced budget in there. If you go all the way to the end line for Fund 27 expenses, you can see the increase there. And again, really just due to those student needs in that program. Then we have our our debt service fund, which is Fund 39. This is all of our referendum-approved debt. What you'll see here is our debt payments are going down, and we'll see that when we get to the levy at the end of this document. We also provide sort of what our total indebtedness is, also a requirement as part of this document. So you can see our total debt just continues to go down with those payments. And then when we look at capital projects funds, we have two of those funds. Fund 46 is our long-term capital projects fund, which is like our summer capital. And we've talked a little bit about that. When we're able, we can make transfers from Fund 10 to Fund 46 to help pay for those projects. The other fund we have there is our Fund 49, and that's the referendum-approved projects. So that's where we're paying out all of the invoices for all of the work that's happening this year. We do not have a Fund 46 transfer in the budget at this point, so we're not kind of already planning that within. However, as we've had discussions at the end of every year, if we have a surplus, if there are projects that we budgeted for within the budget, Joe's budget, or I shouldn't say Joe, Buildings and Grounds budget, that don't get completed before the end of the year, then we move those funds into Fund 46 so we can pay for those. So, but at this time, we don't have anything budgeted for a transfer. And then if we move on to Fund 50, that's our food service fund.
So just a quick question. So our total indebtedness, we have about $62 million in debt.
Correct.
This year, am I reading this correctly, that we're going to pay off 17.8 million of it?
No.
No, what's that 17.8 million?
That is Fund 46 and 49. So those are the project, when we got the $28 million to pay for projects, that went into Fund 49, and so now that's where we're paying for those projects out of. If you go back up to 39, that's where we're paying the debt on those, or
Okay.
the debt.
So how
making the
much
debt.
we have 61 million in debt, how much of that
At the end of this year, that is what we will have
Yeah,
remaining.
and how much of that do we pay off on an annual basis?
Depends how we have our debt payment structured. Last year,
Okay.
we made a pretty significant payment on the principal,
Okay.
and that'll come back down a little bit. Well, you can see there, it's about 5 million.
About 5 million right now.
Because at the end of 24, 25,
Okay.
we had 66.4 million
Oh, I see.
as a balance.
Yep. Okay.
And we did that carefully and with advice so that we would be able to
Kind of keep the-
limit the impact
mill
as
rate
much as
steady.
possible
We
on
did, yeah.
taxpayers. I think it's important for people to know that.
I just like to hold the big numbers, you know, to know them.
Fund 50 is our food service fund. We're presenting and expecting a balanced budget there. And then also community service, that's our Fund 80, and that is where we have Kids Club and Community Ed Communications in there. So then a lot of big numbers here when we add it all together, and the total expenditures there is about 80 million. And of course, that includes all of the projects that we're paying off even this year, beginning of this year. So then the last page is the levy, proposed levy. Again, this will also be part of the annual meeting and budget hearing. And this is where you can see sort of what's happening between each of the funds as far as the levy goes. So that general fund levy you see going up by 2.2 million. But then also you see the referendum debt service fund going down by almost $1 million, just about 900,000. Our community service fund, or Fund 80 levy, has been the same for about 5 years, at 220,000. And so in total, we have an increase of our levy of about 1.3 million. Anything else you want to add to that, Dave, that we've talked about? That's all I have.
All
Unless
right.
there's any questions.
At this point, is there a motion to approve the 2025-26 budget for the annual meeting and budget hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Allison. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Additional questions or comments about this? There's a lot to take in. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you, and thank you, Lynette, for such careful attention to all of this.
Can you remind me of when the
September 22nd is the annual meeting and budget hearing, September 22nd at the high school.
So Mark, would you be willing to come and help us with items F and G?
Absolutely.
right.
Similar to last year and the year before that, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of our 66030 agreements, which are shared agreements with kind of area entities, which allows us to be efficient with taxpayer dollars and really share some services versus having to go and go out and contract for them. So the first one I want to talk about is a shared agreement with University of River Falls 4K program to basically hire an additional paraprofessional, which kind of works in that 4K AM program along with Nicole Larson to provide services for some of our students with disabilities. That 4K center is one of our 4K centers that we co-teach out of. So we have some students with disabilities who require some additional support. And so we essentially hire a paraprofessional, split the cost with the university, and allows us to kind of provide some services at that institution. So no changes from last year or the year before. Basically, we split the cost down the middle, and Amber Smith goes over there and provides some really nice services for some of our youngsters with special education needs. So I would recommend that the board would approve that agreement with the University of River Falls.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the service agreement with the University of Wisconsin River Falls, the University Preschool Program, to share the cost of a special education paraprofessional for the 2025-26 school year as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. A second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Monica. Questions or comments? This is important. It's the way that we serve the needs of our kids, and it's going to work well.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Yes. On a related note, we also contract with several other area school districts for a couple of different services as well. The first being our deaf and hard of hearing
I'm
program.
going to just take a motion on that, or take a vote first.
I'm
I was
so
just
sorry.
asking for discussion. It's fine. You're getting it.
I'm so excited about this. I just
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried, and now we are going to go on to the next agreement. So thank you. You're keeping me on task.
Yes, all right.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Nope.
Yes, in a related manner, we also contract with area school districts for a couple of services as well, or share some of our staff for those services. The first being our deaf and hard of hearing teacher. Basically, most districts in the area don't have enough students with that particular need to hire their own staff. And rather than maybe going through a CISA, which tends to be a relatively expensive, we've allowed us to basically hire our own teacher and then contract with area districts to provide some of their services as well. So this year is a little different in the past. In the past, we kind of shared 15% of that person with Prescott and 10% with Ellsworth. This coming year, due to a few extra students in Ellsworth, they've upped it to 15%. So this year, the deaf and hard of hearing teacher is 15% Prescott, 15% Ellsworth, and then 70% with us. So again, I would recommend that we would approve that agreement. I've worked with Sandy and Marion. This seems to be an arrangement that's working really well for us and for our students. So that's the DHH program. We do something similar with Project Search. For those of you who know, Project Search is a great program that we run out of the local hospital, which really just teaches kind of vocational skills to students who just need that extra year to really develop some of those additional things that they can kind of learn and work and do some cool things on the job. Project Search graduation, I know I've seen several of you there in the past. It's a wonderful experience and a wonderful program. And so we would recommend that we continue with that as well. This coming year, we have 5 interns that are on the docket, kind of down a little bit from the last year, which we had 7. But 5 interns, 1 from River Falls, 2 from Ellsworth, 1 from Prescott, and 1 from St. Croix Central. So it kind of pulls from a variety of areas in the community, in the local area for those services. So again, I would recommend that program as well.
Are the numbers down because of capacity, or we just don't have students that would fit the program?
Yeah, it's that.
Okay. It just
Natasha does a great
fluctuates.
job of doing PR and working for students, but there's kind of a unique type of student
Yeah.
that really, works well in the program. And districts don't always have, as many. So for example, last year River Falls had 4, this coming year we have 1. So it just kind of fluctuates a little bit, but we always like to have somewhere in that 5 to 7 range. It's kind of the sweet spot as far as the number of kids in the program.
But I think what's important about that is it's due to the population of students we have, not that we're
Correct.
going to serve fewer of them.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
Good. We'll take these as 2 separate motions. So is there a motion to approve the deaf and hard of hearing program 660301 agreement with Prescott and Ellsworth School Districts for 25-26 school year? Motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Monica. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Bo. Questions,
One
comments?
question. I think, just for clarity, this is our teacher. We hire the teacher. They're on our staff, they're on our payroll, they're a part of our fringe benefits, all that sort of thing. And then we contract out services to others, so
Yep.
they pay us.
Correct.
So that they're not applied to multiple districts, okay.
Correct, yeah. We hire them and then contract them out to
I
other
think
districts.
I understood that, but I thought, let's get it out there so everybody knows.
That's for the deaf and hard of hearing as well?
Yep.
So those students, they don't travel to the districts, those students travel to our district?
No, they travel.
They travel to the district, they're on our
Our
payroll,
team,
but
yep.
we just get reimbursed for their 15% or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep, correct.
It's a really good way of meeting the
It
needs of
is.
these kids when we can't all have an individual teacher.
Yeah.
And the increase of the 15% down in Ellsworth, that was due to his needs in
Yes.
Ellsworth, right?
Yep.
Does that decrease the amount of services that we're allowed to provide or that we're able to provide here in River Falls? And does that match up with the needs here, I guess?
Yes, that matches up with the needs here, mainly because our numbers fluctuated a little as
Sure.
well.
Okay.
And so every year I work with Nancy to say, okay, is this doable with these percentages line up? And she assured me that they line up and we're not shortchanging any students in River Falls by giving Ellsworth a little more.
Great, thanks.
We have a motion that has been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. And now is there a motion to approve the Project Search 660301 agreements with Ellsworth, Prescott, St. Croix Central School Districts for the 25-26 school year?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Allison. Questions or comments? Mark's right. Go to graduation if you can.
Very cool.
You'll be very proud of this program. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, we are going to move on to formulate the policy ad hoc committee for the 25-26 school year. Superintendent David Bell has suggested that Lindsay serve, Allison serve, and I serve, although we would be probably willing to let you serve if you really wanted to. But that's the
I'll think about it, I'll get
recommendation.
back to you.
We'll save you a seat.
You're always invited.
That's the recommendation, but yes.
Watch, I'll surprise you, I'll show you.
Everyone's welcome.
This functions as all of our other committees, that there are 3 voting members, but everyone is welcome. Does that configuration sound okay to everybody?
Is this, we officially call it ad hoc committee?
Yep,
That's gonna be its name.
it's a
Policy
policy
ad
ad
hoc
hoc committee. That's
Policy
the
ad
official
hoc.
name.
And ad hoc means it's a temporary, right?
It doesn't, it's not a standing committee.
Right.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
moved.
All right. Any discussion? Wow. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. All right. You'll see on page 48, the tentative schedule for school board meeting calendars. We're doing this because we have the triple headers this year so that we can add in this policy work. It could potentially change, but is there a motion to approve that tentative 25-26 school board committee calendar?
So moved.
Thank you, Monica. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Bo. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. We do have before the board this evening the second reading of revised school board policy 431 related to school, or to student attendance. We discussed this
Did.
in depth, and now it's coming back to us for a second read without any adjustments from the first reading.
I would move approval.
All right, thank you, Allison. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lindsay. I really like the chart that you've made to help get the information out. It's great. Anything else?
I have one question.
Yeah, please.
As I was rereading through this, I just want clarification on the way that it works with the athletics. So I read, like, okay, if you have a dentist appointment, that could count up to half a day because it's an excused absence, but it doesn't necessarily always, or,
If you had a dentist appointment and you had the note from the dentist,
Okay.
that would be exempt.
it would be exempt. Okay.
How that impacts athletics is different
You
than-
could still play if you
Correct.
had something that evening.
Yep.
Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you. That was the clarification that was,
But if you had a parent request on the day or the day after, then that could potentially
impact the ability to play in a game.
Do we provide a document or a sheet of some sort
gonna
to
say.
It's in the
parents?
handbook that you signed off on when
Yeah.
you signed your kid up.
I remember.
So you go to copies of it, or,
It's a link, so you have to go
Yep.
through, you have to open it up.
but, okay.
Yep.
So they print it out, take it to the doctor.
No, we're talking about two different things. I thought you were talking about how would a parent know?
No,
You're talking about.
I'm talking about a physical
Getting-
what do they bring back, a post-it
The
note that
doctor.
says,
A sign
Dr.
note, yep.
DBS's.
Yep,
And
There's not a
oftentimes they will,
standard, there's not a standard thing that they could take that says, that the doctor signs, as opposed to,
if you go, were you gonna?
I was just gonna say, my experience is oftentimes when you go to the dentist,
They already have it.
they will ask, do you want a note to take back to school? But I do think that is an important detail to make sure we're messaging out to families that because I don't know that that's been the consistent expectation. I don't know that all of our attendance officers are asking for those when students return. And so I think that is a specific detail we want to be sure that we're pushing out to families.
Yep.
I agree. Because I think part of, as I was rereading this, there is a section that talks about exempt, but it doesn't, I was a little bit confused even
Okay.
rereading it as to how something that would maybe be an excused absence becomes exempt from some of the things. And so I think that note, if that was there, it was not super, super clear to me as I was rereading it,
Good.
but I do
So the
appreciate, yeah.
implementation,
Just
you're
really,
wanting to
yeah.
make sure is really clear.
And that parent communication piece, to Lindsay's point, if I didn't know that my child needed that, and then all of a sudden they can't play in the volleyball game because I didn't think to get a note or tell them to get a note,
Sure.
I would be pretty mad, but,
Yeah, and that's where I would circle back to, when you sign your child up,
yeah,
you go through, you have to click in.
and you have to click all the,
Prove that you understand eligibility. If your
Yep.
child is eligible, you have to understand and read through. There's some concussion protocols, and then you open
Yep.
up this handbook. And the handbook, the code of conduct has all these things. Now, to your point, is it a little buried? Yes. And so could we put it front and center a little more? Perhaps.
or just even have coaches say, hey, like, this
I
could
don't,
mess up.
yeah.
Yeah, it might be something to
like,
reinforce.
Yeah.
doesn't a student have to, and maybe it's not on us to provide, but a student signs out, like a high school kid signs out of the office to go to the doctor or go to the dentist. We could have a slip of paper that they just grab and right on the desk there, when they sign out, grab the paper, take it, have it signed, bring it back. I mean, it's probably not on us to have to
Yeah.
provide that, but it might be like a
Sometimes
pretty
it's a good
easy,
idea to do
Make
it.
pretty easy way to do
My
it.
experience is when my son got a pass to go to the dentist for the orthodontist, he would just take that pass, have them sign it, and then he'd bring it back, and that's how they got it.
That's the process.
That's how he got his excuse.
I think, I don't want to speak out of turn. I think it's pretty tight at the high school.
Right, because the
think
kids
it-
are having to sign.
Because
it.
the kids are
Right.
signing in and out, so there's a personal responsibility component to it. When you get to the younger ages, it's sort of implied that it's understood.
Right.
Now, we don't have athletics issues there, but we could potentially have some attendance issues there.
But the parents are much more engaged at that stage versus high school where kids walk into the car. I mean,
Potentially,
the
you're just
parent may not
going-
even be
Yep.
involved at all,
Yep.
you know, they set the appointment and.
Yep.
So
Good thing, we can
Yeah,
I'll talk to
just-
David
Yeah,
Creel.
just wanted some clarification as I was rereading it in prep for this meeting that jumped out at me. So,
And since those things have to do with not the policy per se, but the way in which we are explaining it and preparing it, I think that we can still approve
I
this.
feel like we
Don't
can
you,
still
for the
approve the
second?
policy, I
mean,
just really wanted to ask
just
the
make
question
sure
and make
that
sure it was thought about.
can
Yep.
I would
get
agree
that
with
out.
that, and I would be comfortable even moving to approve the
Yeah, I
policy
think that-
with just having that conversation, so.
Perfect.
So I'll make that motion.
Actually, we already have that motion.
Oh, we did, didn't we? Darn.
We have to vote.
Well, can I
That's
make
right,
it again?
we
I'm
just
kidding.
discussed.
I'm kidding.
But
We do
before-
have that motion.
Before we go, I've got a comment too, and I asked Amanda to put this up. So I just want to put this, just to remind us, thinking of Dave's earlier comments, some of the things that we're doing now to engage parents and share information with parents. This is always a shared responsibility in what we're doing with them. But I want to highlight this, just because this is a regular board meeting. The second paragraph, so it's the process of who's responsible for students' attendance here. Our policy will say, quote, "The primary responsibility for regular student attendance of a child rests upon the child's parents or guardian. In addition, school officials have a legal responsibility to enforce student attendance. It is the intention of the district to work closely as possible with parents or guardians regarding student attendance," close quote. I want to lift that out because I think it's an important one, and it's just to remind everyone, I think it's obvious to most people, it would be obvious to most parents that certainly I got to get them out the door and make sure that they're there and look after them and all those kinds of things. But I'm not sure right now that that's always so obvious with everybody, both the school district and the parents and families and all that. So anyway, just one more time, we're doing a whole bunch of stuff this year, and I was really glad to see what Dave has been highlighting this year. I wanted to lift out that paragraph and mention it one more time.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. All right, do we have any proposed items for future agendas? Then we are going to schedule the next meeting. You will notice that the Policy Ad Hoc Committee says potential. That's simply because when the agenda was created, the committee had not yet been seated. But now it has been seated, so that committee will meet Monday, September 8th at 6 o'clock. The Educational Program Committee will meet Monday, September 15th at 6. Finance and Facilities will meet Monday, September 15th at 7 or immediately following Educational Program. Personnel Committee will meet Monday, September 15th at 8 o'clock or immediately following Finance and Facilities. The annual meeting and budget hearing will be Monday, September 22nd at 6 o'clock at the River Falls High School. The regular board meeting will be Monday, September 22nd at 7 o'clock or immediately following the annual meeting and budget hearing, and we will continue our meeting at the high school. We won't be coming back here. The other committee meetings are scheduled to be here at the district office. And now I need to read this, but I would like to have a motion to go into closed session under Wisconsin statute, section 1985-1F, to consider the medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, specifically to discuss the 24-25 school year restraint and seclusion report, and pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 19-1G, to confer with legal counsel for the board who was rendering oral or written advice considering a strategy to be adopted by the board with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved regarding a citizen complaint. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Monica. I need a roll call.
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Bo? Oh, you did.
Yep.
Allison?
Yep.
Yes.
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 Lindsay?
Yes.
Mike? I'm saying yes.
Yes.
Ellen? All right, we are going to be enclosed. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight.